Rian stood on the edge of the dusty mining outpost, watching the twin suns sink behind the jagged mountains. The sky glowed in shades of orange and purple, but the beauty did little to calm his restless mind. Life at Outpost Delta was lonely. Machines hummed in the distance, miners moved like ants among the tall, rusted structures, and the wind carried a thin taste of metal and dust. He had been assigned to oversee the machinery today, but something inside him felt different, like the world was about to change. Rian wiped sweat from his forehead and leaned against a railing. He had been on this planet for 3 cycles, and the days were long, quiet, and monotonous. The humans here rarely expected visitors, and they were certainly not ready for anything from the stars. Then it happened. A faint shimmer appeared on the horizon, subtle at first, like a distortion in the air. He squinted, trying to understand what he saw. The shimmer grew, forming a sleek shape that cut through the sky like a knife. A ship. But it was unlike any ship he had seen before. Its surface seemed liquid, reflecting the twin suns in swirling patterns of light. No sound came from it as it glided silently toward the outpost. Rian's heart pounded. Visitors were not unheard of, but ships like this were rare. He grabbed his communicator. "Control. Identify that object," he said, voice tight with tension. Static answered him. No one else was monitoring the skies at this hour. The ship landed with a light that barely touched the ground, yet a small dust cloud rose from the impact. A hatch opened, and a figure emerged. Rian froze. She was small, human in shape, but not human. Her skin shimmered faintly under the twin suns, pale with hints of silver. Her eyes were large, calm, and luminous, reflecting more than just the light around her. She moved gracefully, each step measured and purposeful. Her hair fell like strands of dark silk, and she carried herself with confidence, yet her presence seemed gentle, almost fragile. She stopped a few meters away and raised a hand. "I am Mira," she said, her voice soft but clear. "I have come to help you." Rian took a step back. "Help from her?" He frowned. "Who sent you? Why are you here?" His voice was cautious, more a whisper than a demand. "I am not your enemy," Mira said. "I come from beyond your stars. I have information that can save your people from danger. I mean no harm." Rian noticed something strange. Mira's hand, the one she had not lowered, seemed to be holding another. But when he looked closer, there was nothing there. No other person, no object, nothing. Yet her grip was firm, almost like she was tethered to something invisible. The sight unsettled him. He glanced around the outpost. A few miners had stopped work, staring in awe or fear. Rumors of alien sightings were common, but no one had expected a visitor like this. "Rian," Mira said, as if she knew him. His eyes widened. He had never met her, never spoken to her. Yet she spoke his name with certainty. "I have observed you. You are someone who can make a difference. Please, come with me. Time is short." He hesitated. Trust did not come easily to humans on the frontier. Yet something in her eyes, in the way she held herself, made him pause. He could not explain why, but he wanted to believe her. Rian finally stepped forward. "What kind of danger? What are you talking about?" Mira lowered her head slightly, her voice carrying a weight that made him lean closer to hear. "A fleet is coming. They are not like your usual pirates. They seek to destroy, not to plunder. I have traveled light years to warn you. Your world, your people, will not survive without help." Rian's mind raced. A fleet? Destroyers from beyond the stars? Most humans he knew did not even think beyond their colony. Yet Mira spoke with certainty, as though she had already seen the outcome. "How can I trust you?" he asked, though part of him did not want to ask. "I will show you," she said, and then something unusual happened. Mira raised her other hand and touched the air as if tracing invisible lines. A faint glow appeared, so soft he could barely see it. Rian blinked. There was no one there, yet he felt a presence, almost a heartbeat in the space between them. "I carry someone with me," she said. "A guide, a protector." "You will see the truth soon enough," Rian frowned. "A guide? Invisible. Are you saying there is another being here?" Mira smiled faintly, but it was tinged with sadness. Not visible to you, not yet. But trust me, without this presence, I could not survive your world, and your people would not survive the coming storm. The wind picked up, rustling the loose panels of the outpost. Dust swirled around their feet. Rian looked at Mira again, trying to read her, trying to sense if she was dangerous. Every instinct screamed caution, yet curiosity held him in place. "Very well," he said finally. "If you are here to help, I will take you to the commanders. But one wrong move, and you will answer to us." Mira inclined her head. "I understand. I only wish to save lives." Rian led her through the outpost, the miners giving them wary looks. Some whispered among themselves, speculating whether she was a spy, a scout, or something more sinister. Rian ignored them. He focused on Mira, trying to understand her presence as they walked. Mira glanced at the machinery, the dust, the simple human lives scattered among metal and rock. She seemed fascinated, not dismissive. "Your people are resilient," she said softly. "I have seen many worlds, and few endure as you do." Rian frowned. "Resilient? We barely survive here. Survival is not only physical," she replied. "It is courage. And you have it." Rian felt a strange warmth in his chest. Mira had a way of speaking that made ordinary work feel important, like every breath and movement mattered. He could not explain why he trusted her, but he did. When they reached the command center, Rian found the commanders already in session, monitoring the horizon. They froze when they saw Mira, fear and suspicion flashing in their eyes. "This is Mira," Rian said. "She claims to have come to help us. She brings warnings." The commanders exchanged glances. One of them, an older man with lines etched deep into his face, stepped forward. "Help from an alien? How do we know she is not here to deceive us?" "She has helped me already," Rian said firmly. "And she is not alone. There is something with her, something that guides her. I do not know what it is, but I trust her."
Ow.
Mira bowed slightly. "I understand your caution. I will answer questions, provide proof, and guide your people if you allow me. Time is short." "The fleet will arrive sooner than expected," the commanders whispered among themselves. Rian noticed Myra's hand again, the one that held the invisible presence. It never wavered. It was as though she was not merely holding it, but drawing strength from it. The room fell silent. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone. Humans rarely face threats from the stars beyond their imagination. Now, standing before them, was a living sign that the universe was far larger and more dangerous than they had believed. Rian took a deep breath. "We will listen. But we act on proof, not promises." Mira nodded. "Then proof you shall have. Come, I will show you what is coming." She led them to the observation deck where the horizon stretched endlessly. With a gesture of her hand, lines of energy shimmered in the air, forming maps of space routes, fleet movements, and potential attack paths. The humans gasped. This was no ordinary visitor. This was knowledge, guidance, and a warning all at once. Rian stared at Mira, and for the first time, he realized that life at the outpost would never be the same again. She had arrived quietly, calmly, yet she carried a storm within her. A storm of information, danger, and hope. And through it all, she never let go of the invisible hand, the presence that tethered her to survival and to the fate of the humans she had come to protect. The suns dipped below the horizon. Shadows stretched across the outpost. Rian felt a chill, but it was not fear. It was anticipation. The future had arrived, and it had a name. Mira. And she was here to help. Rian could not sleep that night. Even in the quiet of his small quarters, the memory of Mira's arrival haunted him. Her presence was calm but commanding, her words carrying weight he could not ignore. He stared out at the twin moons hanging low in the sky, their pale light washing over the outpost. Somewhere far beyond the stars, the fleet she had warned about was moving closer, and he could feel the urgency like a pulse in his chest. Early the next morning, he found Mira already at the observation deck. She was studying the stars, her luminous eyes scanning patterns he could not see. Her hand, the one that held the invisible presence, glowed faintly in the dim light. It was as if she was in constant conversation with something beyond human perception. "You did not sleep," she said softly, noticing him. Her voice carried no judgment, only curiosity and concern. "I could not," Rian admitted. "Your warning. It does not feel like a story. I can feel it as real." Myra nodded. "You are perceptive. Most humans do not notice the threads of fate until they are tightly wound around them. You are different. That is why I came to you." Rian frowned. "Why me?" She turned to face him, her gaze steady. "Because you have the courage to act, even when others hesitate. And courage is what your people will need. The fleet I spoke of is not merciful. They do not negotiate. They do not fear loss. Without knowledge and preparation, your world will fall quickly." Rian swallowed hard. He wanted to ask more questions, but the weight of her words hung in the air. Instead, he followed her silently as she led him to a series of holographic maps she had activated in the observation room. The projections shimmered, showing lines of movement across space, clusters of ships, and routes that humans had never mapped. "They are coming from the edge of your system," Mira explained. "Their fleet is large, more advanced than anything your people have faced. They strike with precision. They destroy what they cannot control. You must prepare, or the outpost, your colony, and possibly more will be lost." Rian studied the holograms. Each line, each movement, told a story of calculated power. He could feel the danger pressing closer, even from this distance. "How can we defend ourselves?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Mira raised her hand, and the glow from her invisible companion brightened. The light traced paths through the stars, highlighting weak points and potential safe zones. "You have weapons," she said, "but they are not enough. You will need strategy, courage, and cooperation. Humans are resourceful. That is your strength. I can provide knowledge, guidance, and tactics, but the courage must come from you." Rian nodded slowly. He felt a spark of determination. Humans had survived on harsh worlds, on barren planets, against storms and disasters. They had built machines, mined resources, and adapted. This fleet was different, but Mira's words reminded him that survival was never impossible when humans refused to surrender. The door to the observation deck hissed open, and Commander Olan entered. He was a tall man with a sharp expression and eyes that had seen too many dangers. "What is this?" he demanded, looking at Mira. "An alien ship lands on our outpost, and you bring her here?" "She says she comes to help," Rian replied firmly. "She brings warnings about a fleet approaching. I have seen her knowledge. It is accurate, and it can save lives." Aelin narrowed his eyes. "A visitor who cannot be seen entirely and speaks of invisible companions? You ask me to trust this?" Mira did not flinch. "Commander, I ask for your attention, not your blind trust. Look at the maps. Observe the signs. Your people have the power to act, but without information, courage alone will not suffice." Olan studied the projections, his expression slowly changing from skepticism to concern. "If this is real," he said carefully, "we have little time. But how do we know you are not leading them here? You could be a scout, a trap." Myra's eyes glimmered. "I understand your fear. I would not blame you for doubting me. I would ask only that you judge by results, not appearances. I will prove my intent." Rian felt a rush of hope mixed with anxiety. He could see the commanders starting to plan, their skepticism tempered by the evidence she displayed. Myra's calm, methodical approach reassured him. Yet, he could not shake the feeling that the invisible hand she carried was more than a companion. It was power, and it had a purpose beyond human understanding. Over the next few hours, Mira worked tirelessly with the human commanders. She taught them how to read the holograms, how to anticipate the fleet's moves, and how to use their outpost's resources to maximum effect. The miners watched from the sidelines, whispering among themselves. Some were frightened, some inspired. Rian noticed the younger miners following Mira's movements closely, absorbing every gesture and word. At one point, Mira turned to Rian quietly. They will need you, she said. You understand them in a way I cannot. Your courage and determination will guide their actions. You must lead, even if they resist. Humans listen to those who act, not those who only warn. Rian felt the weight of her words. He had always considered himself ordinary, a man who maintained machines and oversaw mining operations. Yet Myra's belief in him sparked something he had not known existed. He was not merely a survivor. He could be a leader. That night the outpost held a council with all key personnel. Mira spoke first, her voice calm but commanding. She outlined the threat, the fleet's approach, and the actions needed to protect the colony. Every step she proposed was precise, based on observations Rian could barely comprehend. Yet her confidence and clarity inspired action. Commander Olan finally spoke. We have weapons, but we do not have the experience to counter this. If what you say is true, we must trust your guidance. But we will proceed cautiously. Any move we make will be deliberate. Myra inclined her head. Caution is wise, but hesitation will be fatal. Trust yourself. Trust each other, and trust your courage. That is what will see you through. As the council ended, Rian stayed behind to speak with Mira privately. The observation deck was quiet, lit only by the holographic maps and the pale moons outside. I do not fully understand your presence, he said. Why do you carry that? Companion. Why hold a hand that cannot be seen? Myra's gaze softened, and for a moment she looked almost human in her vulnerability. This companion is not separate from me. It is part of my people, my guidance, and my strength. Without it, I could not survive, and neither could those I come to help. Humans cannot see it, but it is real. It is necessary. It is a tether to hope. Rian nodded slowly. I do not understand it fully, but I will trust you. I feel that you are here for the right reason. She smiled faintly. Then you will be ready when the time comes. The fleet will arrive soon. Prepare your people, sharpen your courage, and do not lose faith. You are stronger than you believe. Days passed quickly as the outpost prepared. Rian coordinated the miners and technicians, using Myra's strategies to reinforce defenses, plan escape routes, and organize communication channels. Mira worked alongside them, always calm, always precise. The invisible presence she carried never faltered, and Rian began to feel that it was not only guiding her but protecting everyone who trusted her. One evening, while Rian inspected the perimeter, he noticed a faint glimmer in the sky, almost like a distant reflection of light. Mira stood nearby, her eyes focused on the stars. It is close, she said softly. The fleet approaches faster than we anticipated. We must be ready. Rian felt a chill run through him, but he did not show fear. He had trained the miners, coordinated the defenses, and witnessed Mira's knowledge in action. He had a plan, and he trusted it. More importantly, he trusted her. That night, Rian stood at the edge of the outpost, looking at the horizon. Mira joined him silently. She extended her hand, the invisible presence shimmering faintly in the darkness. Tomorrow, everything changes, she said. Your courage will be tested, your resolve challenged, but you will not face it alone. I will be with you, and so will this presence. Rian nodded. I am ready, he said, though the truth was he was not sure what to expect. The fleet, the unknown enemy, the invisible presence, it was all overwhelming, yet he felt a strange sense of calm. Mira's confidence, her guidance, and her quiet strength had given him something he had never had before: belief. As the twin moons rose high in the sky, Rian and Myra stood together, silent but connected. The outpost was ready, the humans prepared as best they could be, and the stars above promised both danger and hope. The fleet was coming, and when it arrived, humanity would not face it alone. The morning sun rose over Outpost Delta, painting the dusty landscape in shades of gold and red. Rian moved through the corridors, checking systems and reinforcing defenses as Mira had instructed. The air buzzed with activity. Humans worked together with renewed purpose, driven not just by fear, but by the guidance of someone who seemed to understand the stars better than anyone else. Rian paused outside the command center, watching Myra as she interacted with the crew. Her voice was calm, precise, and encouraging. Even the most skeptical miners leaned in to listen. But as he observed her, he noticed something he had not seen clearly before. Myra often reached into empty space, Altina hand as if another being were there. Sometimes she whispered, soft enough that only she could hear. The invisible presence that had first unsettled him now seemed familiar, almost protective. Curiosity pulled at him, and he stepped closer. "Mira," he called softly, careful not to startle her. She turned, her luminous eyes meeting his. "Yes, Rian," she asked, her voice gentle. "I have to ask," he said slowly. "Who is with you? The companion you always hold." What exactly is it?" Myra's expression softened. She gestured for him to follow her to the observation deck, where the sky stretched endlessly and the holographic projections of the enemy fleet floated silently above the ground. She motioned for him to look at the stars. "Humans cannot see them," she began. "But in every corner of the universe, there are beings made of energy, light, and purpose. Some are guardians, some guides, and some are memories of entire civilizations. The one I carry is my protector, my tether to my people. Without it, I could not survive this journey, and without it, your people would not have the advantage you now hold." Rian studied her face. "So, it is real. But why invisible to us?" "Your senses are tuned to matter, not to the essence of energy life," Myra explained. "It exists in a form humans cannot perceive directly. But it can act, it can shield, and it can guide. And it trusts me completely. That is why I carry it." Rian nodded slowly, trying to process the idea. Invisible beings guiding someone through danger were not part of his world. Yet Mira spoke with such certainty that doubt began to feel small. Days passed and the outpost grew more alert. Training drills intensified, and Mira worked alongside the humans to coordinate strategies. The invisible presence was never far from her side. Rian noticed subtle effects. When she approached machinery, it seemed to respond more efficiently. When she led patrols, the humans moved with unexpected confidence. Even the miners, normally clumsy with weapons, performed better under her guidance. Late one evening, Rian walked with Mira near the edge of the cliffs that bordered the outpost. The wind was strong, carrying the scent of metal and dust. But the air was calm between them. "I feel it," Rian said after a pause. "Your companion. It is helping us, isn't it? I can feel the difference." Myra nodded. "Yes, it amplifies intention, guides focus, and protects when needed. But it does not act without consent. I choose to use it, and in that choice lies its power." Rian shivered slightly. "It is strange, but comforting. I thought it would be frightening, yet it feels safe." "That is because trust can transform fear into courage," Myra replied. She turned to look at him, her expression earnest. "You have the courage to lead, Rian. That is why I chose you. Not because you are the strongest, but because you will act when others hesitate." Rian felt a warmth in his chest he could not explain. Myra's words were not just encouragement, they were a challenge, a reminder that humans could rise to any occasion if they believed in themselves. That night, the stars glimmered above the outpost, but the calm was deceptive. Sensors detected distant movements in the outer system. The fleet Myra had warned about was approaching faster than predicted. Commander Olan gathered Rian, Mira, and the other key personnel to review the situation. "Readings confirm unusual activity," Olan said, his voice tense. "The fleet is closing in on our sector. Time is shorter than we thought." Mira stepped forward, her presence calm yet commanding. She projected a holographic map of the enemy fleet, tracing their projected path. "They move with speed and precision," she explained. "Your defenses are not yet enough to repel them. We must anticipate, adapt, and act before they arrive. That is why the invisible presence I carry is crucial. It will shield me, guide decisions, and alert us to threats you cannot detect." Rian felt the familiar thrill of responsibility mixed with fear. He was no longer just a technician. He was a leader in preparing humans for a confrontation far beyond what they had imagined. Mira's trust in him was empowering, Yet the unknown presence she held reminded him that danger was near, real, and formidable. As the team trained and prepared, Rian observed Mira more closely. He noticed small things. When she spoke, her companion seemed to shimmer faintly, like light reflecting through water. When humans hesitated, she touched the air, and they moved with more confidence. It was subtle, almost invisible, but undeniable. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Rian asked Mira to explain more. "Does your companion have a name? Can it speak?" Mira smiled faintly. "It does not speak in words humans understand, but it communicates through intention. I sense it, I guide it, and it guides me. Together, we are stronger. It does not have a name as you would know it, but you may think of it as a partner, a guardian, and a memory of my people." Rian nodded, trying to understand. The concept was beyond him, yet he felt the truth in her words. "It is impressive, and you have carried it across light years to help us." "Yes," Mira said. "It is not just my mission. It is a promise. I promised my people I would protect those who could not defend themselves. You are among them. That is why I am here." The next day, Mira worked with Rian to strengthen the outpost's communication systems. They modified sensors, improved energy shields, and coordinated patrols along the cliffs. Rian noticed how efficiently she worked, how the invisible presence seemed to anticipate problems before they occurred. When a small system malfunctioned, Mira's hand shimmered faintly, and the repairs completed themselves almost instantly. "It is incredible," Rian said, watching the results. "I have never seen anything like this." Mira smiled gently. "Humans are resourceful, but you are not alone. With guidance, preparation, and courage, you can achieve much more than you imagine." As days passed, trust grew among the humans. The miners who once whispered in fear now followed her instructions without question. Commander Olin, who had doubted her at first, began to consult her before making decisions. Rian observed it all, feeling both awe and responsibility. The invisible companion she carried was no longer frightening. It was a symbol of protection and guidance. One evening, Rian and Mira walked along the cliffs again. The air was cool, the wind carrying the distant hum of machinery. "I want to understand it better," Rian said. "The companion, the way it works. Can you teach me?" Mira shook her head gently. "It is not meant for human understanding. You can trust it, feel its effects, and follow guidance, but you cannot see it as I do. That is why your role is important. You lead the people, I guide the action, and together we prepare for what is coming." Rian nodded, accepting the limits of his understanding. He felt a quiet determination settle in him. Whatever the fleet brought, they would face it with preparation, courage, and unity. Mira's presence, and the invisible companion she carried, had shown him that humans could rise to challenges far greater than they imagined. That night, as the twin moons rose high above the cliffs, Rian gazed at the stars. He could feel the fleet moving closer, an invisible tension threading through the universe. Mira stood beside him, calm and unwavering. Her hand held the invisible presence, a faint shimmer in the moonlight. "We are ready," he said softly, more to himself than to her. Mira turned to him, eyes glowing gently. "You are. Humans are capable of more than they know. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Remember that. The fleet is coming, but you are not alone, and neither are your people." For the first time, Rian felt a deep sense of purpose. Mira had arrived quietly, but she had brought knowledge, courage, and guidance. The invisible presence she carried was no longer a mystery or a threat. It was hope tethered to action and determination. As the outpost settled for the night, preparations continued. Rian walked among the humans, checking supplies, reinforcing defenses, and reminding them of Mira's strategies. Each step, each decision, carried the weight of the approaching threat, but he did not falter. He had guidance, he had courage, and he had trust. And above all, he had Mira. When the first signs of the fleet appeared on the outer sensors, Rian would be ready. And with Mira's hidden companion by her side, The humans would stand stronger than they had ever imagined. The day began quietly at Outpost Delta, but the calm was deceptive. Rian moved among the miners and guards, checking defenses one last time. The distant horizon shimmered faintly, a subtle sign that the enemy fleet was approaching. Mira stood nearby, her hand holding the invisible presence. The faint glow that radiated from it seemed to respond to the tension in the air. Pulsing gently as if preparing for what was to come, Rian felt a knot of anxiety in his chest. Months of preparation, training, and planning had led to this moment. He had never imagined facing such a threat, yet now he felt ready. The humans under his command were nervous, but their fear was tempered by determination and Mira's guidance. Commander Olin called a final briefing. The key personnel gathered in the command center, watching the holographic projections of the enemy fleet. Hundreds of ships, precise and powerful, moved closer to the human worlds. Mira stood at the center, projecting lines and movements with gestures of her hands. The invisible companion shimmered faintly at her side, a silent presence guiding her actions. "They are organized," Mira said. "Their fleet moves like a single entity. They will strike where they find weakness. You cannot confront them head-on. You must anticipate, adapt, and act strategically. Trust your preparation and your courage." Alan's voice was steady but firm. "We have reinforced defenses, laid traps, and coordinated patrols. We will use every advantage we have. But one wrong move could be fatal. We need a plan for every possibility," Rian nodded, reviewing the strategies they had developed over the past weeks. The miners had been trained in basic combat, machinery, operation, and communication protocols. Sensors were enhanced, shields reinforced, and escape routes mapped. Every detail had been considered. Mira moved among them, her luminous eyes scanning the projections. Timing is critical. Coordination is essential. Fear is a choice, and courage is a choice as well. Decide wisely, act decisively, and you will survive. The first movement of the fleet appeared on the sensors. A ripple of tension ran through the room. The ships were massive, sleek, and far more advanced than anything humans had encountered. Their approach was silent, precise, and threatening. Rian took a deep breath. "All units follow the plan. Stay calm. Trust your training. Mira will guide us, but we must act together." The humans moved quickly into position, coordinating with one another under Rian's direction. The miners who had once doubted themselves now operated machinery with precision. Energy shields activated, sensors aligned, and weapon systems powered up. Mira stood at the center, her invisible companion glowing faintly, anticipating the fleet's moves. As the enemy approached, a sudden alarm blared. A group of ships had altered their course, attempting to bypass the outer defenses. Rian's mind raced. He had predicted some maneuvers, but not all. He looked to Mira. "They are testing you," she said calmly. "Do not react hastily. Observe, calculate, and act with precision. Let courage guide your actions, not fear." Rian ordered the outer patrols to engage, using decoys and defensive traps. The miners operated the machinery with skill, surprising the invaders with their effectiveness. Mira moved among them, her gestures guiding actions subtly yet clearly. The invisible presence at her side shimmered, almost like a heartbeat. Responding to her every move, despite their preparation, the battle was intense. The enemy ships were powerful, and their attacks were relentless. Yet Rian noticed a pattern. Mira's guidance, combined with the humans' resourcefulness, created unexpected advantages. The fleet struggled to predict human movements, and every action taken by Rian and his team disrupted the invaders' strategy. During a brief lull, Rian observed Mira closely. She never let go of the invisible hand. Sometimes she whispered, sometimes she gestured, and always the humans around her moved with greater confidence. He realized that the companion was not just protecting her, was protecting everyone who trusted her. A sudden alarm indicated a breach in the outer perimeter. One of the enemy ships had slipped past defenses and was heading toward a supply depot. Rian's heart raced. The humans were outnumbered, and if the supply depot fell, it would cripple their ability to continue resistance. Mira's voice broke through his thoughts. You must decide quickly. The path is clear. Lead with courage. Rian understood instantly. He gathered a small team, including some of the miners trained for combat, and moved to intercept the intruder. The invisible presence shimmered at Mira's side, and he felt an almost physical nudge of confidence. As if the companion was silently guiding him. The confrontation was tense. The intruding ship fired its energy beams, and Rian's team maneuvered through cover, turning fire while protecting the machinery and supplies. He noticed the humans around him moving with precision he had not thought possible. Myra's influence, though subtle, was tangible. It was as if courage itself flowed through them. Finally, Rian and his team managed to disable the intruder. Sparks flew, the ship veered off course, and the humans breathed a collective sigh of relief. Mira approached, her calm presence grounding everyone. You acted wisely, she said softly. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite it. You have made the right choice. Rian felt a swell of pride. The humans had succeeded because they trusted themselves, their preparation, and Myra's guidance. Yet he knew the battle was far from over. The fleet was vast, and more challenges lay ahead. As night fell, Rian gathered the key personnel for another briefing. We have seen what we can do when we act together, he said. The enemy tests us, but we are ready. We must remain vigilant, follow the plan, and trust our courage. Mira has shown us that we are stronger than we believed. Mira's eyes glowed softly in the dim light. You have learned well. Trust each other. Trust your instincts. Trust the courage that lies within. The fleet is relentless, but so are humans when they act with purpose and unity. The next day, the fleet's main force approached. Sensors detected hundreds of ships moving in formation, prepared to strike. Rian and the humans were ready. Energy shields lined the cliffs, weapon systems activated, and communication channels synchronized. Myra stood at the center, calm and unwavering, her hand holding the invisible presence that pulsed with subtle light. The first attack came swiftly. Enemy ships fired with precision, but humans anticipated, maneuvered, and responded effectively. Rian directed the miners with clear commands, coordinating movements that disrupted the invaders' attacks. Mira's presence guided decisions, subtle but undeniable. The invisible companion seemed to act as a buffer, absorbing or deflecting potential disasters before they occurred. Hours passed in tense battle. Each engagement tested the humans' courage, skill, and preparation. Yet each time, they adapted, using strategy and unity to gain the upper hand. Mira remained at the center, her calm demeanor a steadying force amidst chaos. Rian noticed how her eyes tracked the invisible companion, how she gestured and whispered, and how the humans responded instinctively during a critical moment. One of the larger enemy ships broke through the outer defenses. It aimed directly at the command center. Rian's heart pounded. He knew, if it reached the center, the outpost would fall. He looked to Mira for guidance. You must decide, she said softly. Lead your people. Trust your courage. The choice is yours. Rian took a deep breath. He directed a team of miners and guards to use the reinforced energy nets and heavy machinery to intercept the ship. Every move required precision. Every decision carried weight. The invisible presence pulsed faintly, and he felt a surge of confidence. As if the companion's power flowed into him, the plan worked. The intruding ship was slowed, diverted, and finally neutralized. The humans cheered, relief and exhilaration flooding the command center. Mira smiled, her luminous eyes reflecting pride and calm satisfaction. Rian turned to her. We did it. We stopped it. Yes. Mira replied softly. Because you acted. Because humans can rise to challenges when they trust their courage. The fleet is not finished, but you have shown that preparation, unity, and bravery can overcome even overwhelming odds. As the battle continued into the night, Rian realized the truth of Mira's words. Courage, preparation, and trust in one another were humanity's greatest strengths. The invisible companion she carried was more than a guide, it was a symbol of hope. a reminder that even in the darkest moments, courage could light the way. When the final wave of the fleet retreated beyond Sensor's reach, the humans gathered to assess damage and prepare for the next day. Rian walked among them, offering encouragement, recognizing their efforts, and reminding them of Mira's lessons. Each person had contributed, each person had grown stronger. Mira approached him as the sun began to rise, casting light over the battered but resilient outpost. "You have done well, Rian. The humans have proven themselves. But the choice remains. Will you continue to trust courage, to act decisively, and to lead when the next challenge arrives?" Rian nodded, determination hardening in his chest. "Yes, we will face whatever comes together." She smiled, her hand still holding the invisible presence. "Then the future is not lost. Humanity can endure because courage will guide it and hope will light the path." And for the first time, Rian understood fully. The battle had been about more than tactics or preparation. It had been about choice, courage, and trust. And with Mira, her invisible. The morning sky over Outpost Delta was calm, almost peaceful. The stars that had marked the enemy fleet's approach were now distant, dim points of light fading with the rising sun. Rian moved through the outpost, checking systems, supplies, and defenses. But the sense of tension had eased. Humans had survived the first wave, and hope now burned brightly in their hearts. Mira walked beside him, her hand holding the invisible companion. It shimmered faintly in the morning light, almost like a pulse of energy intertwined with her presence. Rian had grown accustomed to it, but the reality of its existence still filled him with awe. She was calm, serene, yet there was strength radiating from her that went beyond words or explanations. "The fleet has retreated for now," Mira said softly, "but the threat remains. You have proven courage and skill. Now it is time to understand why I carry this companion, and why humans can rise above fear." Mia nodded, feeling both curiosity and anticipation. He had followed her guidance through preparation, battle, and strategy. He had seen the humans adapt and thrive. Yet the invisible presence had always remained a mystery, a power that was protective, guiding, and strangely comforting. They reached the observation deck, where the sun reflected off the holographic maps of the fleet's movements. Mira gestured for Rian to look. "This companion is more than guidance. It is memory, it is strength, and it is trust. It holds knowledge from my people, accumulated over centuries, and allows me to act where others would fail. Without it, I could not have survived the journey, nor could I have given your people the advantage they needed." Rian studied her closely. "So it is not just protection, it is knowledge as well," she said. "It is part of me, part of my mission, and part of the promise I carry. It is tethered to courage and intention. Humans cannot see it, but they can feel its effects when they trust themselves and act with purpose. That is why I held back at first. You needed to learn your own strength before witnessing its power fully." Rian understood. The companion had been more than a mystery. It had been a mirror for human potential, allowing them to see their own courage reflected in action. He thought of the miners, the guards, and the commanders who had fought with him. They had risen above fear and hesitation, guided by preparation, unity, and trust. As they spoke, the outpost's sensors detected a faint movement in the distance. It was not the fleet, but a small vessel approaching cautiously. Rian tensed, ready for another confrontation. Mira's companion shimmered slightly, reacting to the movement. The vessel landed gently near the outpost. A single figure emerged, human but weary, carrying news from a distant colony. The humans who had survived the first wave were sending word that others were preparing. Inspired by the actions at Outpost Delta, Rian realized then that the battle had already sown hope across human settlements. Courage could spread, and unity could strengthen humanity in ways they had not imagined. Mira smiled faintly. The choice to act with courage inspires others. The future is shaped not just by battles, but by the example you set. Humans can endure because they choose to rise when faced with danger. Rian nodded slowly. "And your companion. It helped us, guided us, but it also showed us what we were capable of." "Yes," Mira said. "It is part of me, but it is also a reflection of potential. You see courage in yourselves when you follow your instincts, act with unity, and trust each other. That is why I never revealed everything at first. Humans had to find their own strength. Over the next few hours, Mira worked with Rian and the outpost to consolidate defenses and plan long-term strategies. The invisible companion remained with her, pulsing softly like a heartbeat, guiding and observing. Rian noticed how the humans moved more confidently now, even without her constant intervention. The lesson had been absorbed. Preparation, courage, and unity were as powerful as any technology or strategy. As the day wore on, Rian led a patrol near the cliffs. The outpost had been reinforced, but vigilance was still necessary. Mira accompanied him, her calm presence a source of strength. "Rian," she said, her voice carrying a quiet intensity, "the final lesson is not about weapons or tactics. It is about trust. Trust in yourself, trust in others, and trust in the courage that guides action. The invisible companion shows one way, but it is humans who choose to act. That is your power." Rian reflected on the battles, the decisions, and the choices he had made. He realized she was right. Courage had not been granted by Mira or the companion. It had always been within them. What they had gained from her guidance was clarity, unity, the confidence to act. As they reached the edge of the cliffs, the twin suns cast long shadows over the valley below. Rian could see the repaired defenses, the humans moving with purpose, and the outpost standing stronger than ever. Mira's companion shimmered faintly, a reminder of guidance, memory, and protection. "I want to thank you," Rian said, "for coming here, for helping us, for trusting humans." Mira smiled softly. "I do not need thanks. I only need trust. Humans have shown me that courage, unity, and preparation are as valuable as any weapon. I came to help, but I stayed because I believed in you." For the first time, Rian noticed the subtle energy of the companion in full display. It shimmered across Mira's body, casting faint light on the cliffs, and for a moment the invisible became tangible. It was neither threatening nor frightening. It was guidance, strength, and the promise of hope made visible. Rian extended his hand. Mira hesitated, then reached out with her free hand. For the first time he touched her, and the invisible presence pulsed faintly, almost like recognition. There was no fear, only a quiet understanding. Humans and allies, known and unseen, could face the universe together. As the suns climbed higher, the outposts hummed with renewed life. Humans worked with purpose, repairs were completed, and communications with distant colonies confirmed that others had heard of their success. The fleet that had once threatened them had been checked, and humanity had proven that courage, unity, and guidance could withstand even overwhelming odds. Mira finally spoke. "The companion you have seen, the guidance you have received, it is not magic. It is trust made tangible, courage made visible. You have learned that humans can rise to any challenge when they believe in themselves and act together." Rian nodded. He understood now. The battles, the preparation, and the choices had all led to this moment. The fleet would return, and new dangers would appear. But humanity had learned its own strength. "Your people, my people, and humanity together," Mira said, "can face what comes. Trust and courage will carry you further than any weapon or fleet. That is why I came." The invisible companion shimmered one last time, as if acknowledging the lesson learned. Mira's hand remained in Rian's, a silent promise of alliance, protection, and hope. The humans around them moved with confidence, prepared for the challenges of the stars, and ready to act when courage demanded it. As the day ended, Rian looked at the horizon, the outpost standing strong and ready. Mira stood beside him, her companion still faintly glowing. He realized that humanity's journey among the stars was only beginning, and that courage, unity, and trust would shape every step. For the first time, Rian felt certainty humans could endure. Humans could rise, and humans could thrive, with guidance, courage, and unseen allies by their side. The stars were no longer a threat, but but a challenge to overcome. Mira spoke softly, almost as if to herself. You have proven that courage is choice, and choice defines the future. Humans have chosen wisely. The stars will see your strength, and the universe will remember it. Brienne smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility and the lightness of hope at the same time. He looked at Mira, at the invisible companion, and at the humans who had become stronger than he ever imagined. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was also full of possibility. The fleet might return, new challenges would come, but humanity had learned its own power. They had learned that courage, unity, and trust could make the impossible possible. And as the twin suns set behind the mountains, Rian felt certain that together, humans and their allies could face anything the universe placed in their path. The invisible companion shimmered once more, and Rian understood fully. Hope, courage, and unity were not just ideals. They were weapons, shields, and guidance. And with them, humanity would survive, endure, and thrive among the stars. The outposts, the humans, Myra, and her companion had proven one truth above all. The strength of humanity lay not in machines, not in weapons, but in hearts willing to act and hands willing to hold together. And in that moment, Rian knew the future was theirs to shape.